Okay, we're going to call the December 16th, 2013 Stillwater City Council meeting to order. And first on our agenda, Jamison Talley is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand to your attention with your hand over your heart for the presentation of our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Jameson, you mind if I ask you a couple questions? How are you? By the way, you did a great job. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself? What school you go to, what grade, your teacher, those kind of fun things.
My teacher is Miss Sinclair.
What do you like to do?
Well, of course, spend time with baseball.
And you play for the Eagles?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. And let's see what else. What's your favorite subject in school?
Math.
Math. Ooh, very nice, very nice. Your dad help you with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I know his parents, so I had to get him. Okay, anything else you want to share with us? Okay, well, I hope you have a great Christmas, and I appreciate you coming. We've got a little something for you. Okay, next on our agenda, we have a wonderful proclamation tonight. I promise to make this extremely short, which is going to be difficult because the list of accomplishments is extremely long. And so we're not going to be able to go through all of the accomplishments of Captain Sandowski, but it is extremely long. We want to thank him and congratulate him on his retirement. 31 years serving the citizens of Stillwater. 33, I apologize. 32 years serving the citizens. I can't do my math. I can't do my math. So anyway, congratulations very much. And we have a proclamation to say thank you from the citizens of Stillwater for all your hard work for us. Whereas the Stillwater Fire Department has always answered the calls for help from the citizens of our community in a selfless and heroic manner. And whereas the delivery of fire and medical services can put your firefighters in harm's way. And whereas fire captains are charged with the responsibility of protecting their assigned personnel and developing the firefighters into the leaders of tomorrow. And whereas the role of fire captain is critical to safe and effective fire department operations. And whereas to be a successful fire captain requires individuals with exceptional leadership ability in very dangerous situations. And whereas acknowledging those individuals who have excelled in the position of fire captain and served as a positive role model upon their retirement is a distinctive honor. Now, therefore, I, John Bartley, Mayor of the City of Stillwater, do hereby proclaim and acknowledge the 32 years of service that Fire Captain Robert Sandowski has given our community. Further, that Captain Sandowski has faithfully and diligently carried out his duties in a manner that is a credit to the fire service and has protected our citizens and firefighters from harm. I call upon the people of this great community to join me in congratulating Captain Sandowski on his distinguished career and wishing him a long and happy retirement. He has his family up here, and there's one fact I do want to share with the group. Through your career, you've worked in excess of 3,783 shifts, which is over 90,000 hours. That's equivalent to 10.36 years away from his family serving our community. And I think that is just amazing. Thank you.
Close. Yeah, that is something. Looks like the party somewhere else.
Okay. All right. I do want to say that Vice Mayor Hopkins is under the weather and is not with us tonight. So there are four of us here, but Vice Mayor Hopkins is not with us this evening. And that'll take us down to the consent docket, and we have items A through C on the consent docket. Councilors wish to remove items A, B, or C from the consent docket.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. And that is approved 4-0. That'll take us down to public hearings. We do have one public hearing, receive public comment regarding a proposed text amendment, Chapter 23, Industrial District Uses and Definitions. Do we get good notice on this, Mr. Gorman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Dennison?
Good evening. Paula Dennison from Development Services, and what I have before you this evening is a text amendment change to the Land Development Code. In going through the Land Development Code and in speaking with especially the Stillwater Industrial Foundation, we have found that some clarification needs to be made between the light industrial uses and the general industrial uses, and also to expand some of the uses that are allowed in those districts so that we are in a better position of encouraging industries to come to Stillwater and locate in those respective either light industrial or general industrial districts. So, we took this to the Planning Commission, and before you this evening are the findings. Safety is not an issue. It will encourage development and jobs. There are needs for additional uses in those classifications, and it does also allow for complementary uses that are already identified as permitted by right in those two industrial districts. And that's all the presentation this evening. If you have any questions or comments on this text amendment.
Any questions?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay. We will open up the public hearing, and there's no one signed up to speak in favor or against, so we will now close the public hearing and ask for Planning Commission's recommendation.
Planning Commission sends a recommendation of approval for this text amendment as proposed before you.
And that included the changes made
Yes.
at Planning Commission.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move approval.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second to approve Planning Commission's recommendation. And that is approved 4-0. And that'll take us down to general orders. And the first general orders, project resolution regarding a local project agreement with ODOT for Perkins Road and McElroy. Dr. Peak.
Thank you, Mayor. What we have before you tonight is acceptance of a project resolution for widening and improvements to Perkins Road between McElroy and Lakeview Road. The Oklahoma Department of Transportation has included this project in their 8-year work plan. This agreement would basically obligate the city to be responsible for design, right-of-way, and utility relocation, and would obligate the State Department of Transportation to 100% of the construction cost.
Move approval.
Do you want action now or down in the resolution?
Actually, in resolution.
And take action.
Okay.
Any questions of Dr. Peak? Okay.
Do you know what year of the 8 years they have it in the plan?
When they add a project to the plan, they add it in the out year, which is 2020. The reason why we do these local project agreements, because if we can get design utilities completed early, it's an incentive to look at, ODOT looks at their rebalancing on an annual basis, and if it's designed and ready to go, it can move up faster than that.
Any other questions?
Not at this time, sir.
Thank you. Okay, and our next general order is again with Dr. Peak, a project resolution regarding a local project with Department of Transportation, reconstruction of Highway 51 and Country Club. Dr. Peak.
Yes, this is for another project agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for the widening and improvement of Country Club Road. This is a joint project between the city of Stillwater and Payne County to widen Country Club Road from 6th Avenue to our northern city limits. The county will widen it up to McElroy as part of the first phase of the project. And then next year, they will continue that widening from McElroy to Lakeview. But the initial project will just go to McElroy. The county will also replace the bridge within that section. We basically, as a joint project, would be letting ODOT let the project and actually do the physical management of construction. The city would be responsible for paying the city portion of the construction cost for the roadway and the water line relocation within the city limits. And this is scheduled for ODOT's February 2014 letting. That means they would award it to a contractor in February of 2014.
When's it scheduled to be finished?
The city portion would be finished basically within the intersection by the start of next fall is what we've put within the contract dates.
I might mention again, and these funds are the last residual of the half-penny sales tax fund that we have planned for this project. The council set aside for that, so
That's correct.
it's ready to go.
Okay. And get action under resolutions?
Thank you.
Okay, speaking of which, we'll go down to resolutions. We have resolution number CC 2013-22, authorizing mayor to sign issue election proclamation for primary and general elections for the city of Stillwater. Any questions on that?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval. Second.
Motion and a second on resolution CC 2013-22. And that is approved 4-0. Resolution 2013-23, this was our general order A, resolution authorizing execution of certain project agreement with ODOT to widen and resurface 177 from McElroy to Lakeview.
Now I'll move approval. Second.
Motion and a second to adopt CC 2013-23. That's approved 4-0. And our last resolution, number CC 2013-24, resolution authorized agreement with ODOT, modify and reconstruct Highway 51 and Country Club.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second on CC 2013-24. And that is also approved 4-0. That'll take us down to ordinances. Ordinance number 3249. Mr. Dorman.
Ordinance rezoning a tract of land located at 512 Southwest Street and 509 South Knobloch Street from RTM Residential Two-Family and Multifamily District to CG Commercial General District.
Mayor, I move approval. Second.
Motion is second on ordinance 3249 on first reading. And that is approved 4-0. Take us down to item B, ordinance 3250.
An ordinance authorizing the long-term lease of a certain parcel of property located at 999 West 12th Avenue and providing for citizen-initiated referendum of said lease in accordance with Section 4-2 of the city charter. This is the property that you approved the lease on with the hospital.
Any questions?
I move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second on ordinance 3250. That is approved 4-0. We'll take us down to ordinance 3245 on second reading.
An ordinance amending the Stillwater City Code by amending Chapter 23 Land Development Code, Article 17, Required Improvements, Division 3 Improvements, Section 23-358, Sanitary Sewer Collection System.
I would move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second on ordinance 3245 on second reading. That is approved 4-0. Take us down to item B, ordinance 3246 on second reading.
An ordinance amending the Stillwater City Code by amending Chapter 23 Land Development Code, Article 14, Commercial Use by Right, Section 23-282, Contents of the Application, Site, by amending Article 16, Subdivision Preparation and Requirements, Division 2, Major Subdivisions, Section 23-325, Preliminary Plat, and by amending Article 19, Stormwater Management Regulations for Land Development Projects, Section 23-386, Drainage Studies and Drainage Plans.
Our motion on ordinance 3246.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion and second to approve 3246 on second reading. It's approved 4-0. That'll take us down to reports. Mr. Dorman.
A couple of items tonight, sir. Request executive sessions pursuant to 25 OS subsection 307B4 for the purpose of confidential communication regarding pending litigation, Kearns versus City of Stillwater, case number CJ 2013-128, District Court of Payne County, and Smith versus Stillwater et al., Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals, case number SD 111971, and case number CJ 2010-65, District Court of Payne County. It is my opinion that public disclosure of either of these matters will seriously impair the ability of the City Council to prosecute or defend this pending litigation or proceedings in the public interest.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all, sir.
Mr. Galloway.
Nothing further this evening.
Okay. Counselors, you guys got anything?
Not this time, sir.
Okay. All I've got is the radio shows we have coming up. I'll be on KSPI tomorrow morning at 8:15 on 780 AM, and then on Triple Play on Wednesday. And then actually Friday is going to be a fun one. I will be on TV 31, and it's going to be a fun one. So you want to tune in at 7 AM.
Okay.
It'll be good.
Or set DVR.
Set the DVR. Okay, now I know where it ranks. Okay, anything for upcoming meetings?
Not this time, sir.
Okay, we don't have any appointments. We're going to recess city council so we can come back and deal with the executive sessions after our next two meetings. Okay, I'm going to call to order the Stillwater Utility Authorities meeting. And the first item is the consent docket. We have 3 items on the consent docket. Someone wish to remove A, B, or C?
I would move approval. Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent docket for Utility Authority. That is approved 4-0, and that'll take us down to general orders. Mr. Blankenship.
Good evening, trustees. Dan Blankenship, Director of the Stillwater Utilities Authority. I'm going to get my little program running here and start the show. What I'm here to talk with you this evening about is the Water 2040 project and utility project financing. Thought I'd start out with a little bit of what is Water 2040. Water 2040 is also known as the Southwest Water Project, but we put this name on here, Water 2040, because that is actually the target date in which the improvements to the system will ensure that we have adequate water to serve our customers and future customers through the year 2040. This is an overview of the city of Stillwater, water treatment plant at the top of the drawing, and 56th Street water tower at the bottom, and the range tower. Those are all existing. The Water 2040 project includes the installation of several new water mains and facilities. First thing that came up here is the 36-inch transmission main from the water tower, or from the water treatment plant. And then a new water tower on approximately McElroy between Western and Sanger, and then a connection to the west over to Country Club. At Country Club, we need to replace the booster pump there and replace the water main, 24-inch water main, all the way over to range and down range to the 19th and range tower. In addition to that, we're going to need to put in a new booster pump station at range, a number of pipelines to serve further south into the area, and then a new water tower at the location where there's currently the twin towers, or two large, very large stand pipes. Continuing on, making the connection over to Sanger, and then on down to 56th Street Tower, with a new booster pump station approximately in the vicinity of 44th and Western, and then continuing on up Western to tie into the transmission main. In addition to these projects, we're also currently working on the South Perkins Road booster pump station and the extension of the water line from 44th along Western down to the existing tower. And that's just an indication of some of the subdivisions in that area that will be served and benefit from these new improvements. How much will it cost and how will it be paid for? Estimated cost, we recently got updated estimated cost from our consultant. $65 million is the bottom line. That includes approximately 10% contingency on all of the numbers in there, a little bit more on the construction cost because we're basically in the preliminary design stage. And so typically in the preliminary design stage you'll put more contingency in there because there's a lot higher probability for potential things that are unseen at this point in time. But that's the estimated cost at this time. How are we paying for this? The funding for this project is out of our Water Capital Fund. Our Water Capital Fund was created in June of 2009 with the implementation of our cost of service study, the rates that were developed as part of that cost of service study. The purpose of the fund is to simply fund drinking water capital improvement projects. And the revenue is all of the water rate increases since July of 2009. All of those increases, that has been the revenue source for this fund. That currently equates to about $8 million a year. We have about $13 million of cash balance. We have set aside a portion of that to complete the Country Club waterline relocation project, the one that you approved on the consent agenda this evening, the South Perkins Road pump station that I mentioned, and the Western Road waterline that I mentioned. Gives us about $10 million to work with in that account, or in that fund. When will this project be completed? The timeline that I have here in front of you, there's two timelines here. One of them is from the original Southwest Pressure Zone study, which was presented, I believe, in May approximately of 2012. And that they recommended a phased approach that 3 phases that, as you see here, would get the projects or improvements completed by about 2035. In the fall of last year, a little over a year ago, the trustees expressed a strong desire to compress that schedule and to look at the possibility of completing all of the projects at the same time and moving forward with those projects. And in fact, there were contracts approved with professional services contracts with that in mind so that we could pursue that. And we have been on that track for a little less than a year.
And that was represented by the blue line.
Yes, yeah, that's, the blue line is all three phases combined. Basically, assuming basically that we have funding in place by July of this coming year, we should be able to achieve that goal of having all of the improvements completed by the end of 2016. This is what the professional services agreement basically laid out in task orders. This is, breaks down how the different elements of the professional services are being completed. And you'll probably note in there that a couple of things that were scheduled to start this fall, and that's the real estate or land acquisition and the preliminary design. We've had a little bit of discussion about land acquisition, and that's something that I'll address here in just a little bit. So, with the trustees expressing a strong desire to move forward in a compressed schedule and do all these projects at the same time, the question has come, do we stay that course? And if we stay that course, the way the trust indenture is written, there's a debt limitation, maximum debt amount that can be issued in any given fiscal year. In order for us to, this project is $65 million, as I indicated, significantly more than what the debt limitation is. So in order for us to be able to proceed or stay the course on a single project and doing all of the improvements at the same time, we have basically identified two alternatives. One of that is debt issuance for the entire project by a vote of the people. The trust indenture has a provision that enables debt to be issued in excess of the debt limitation if it's approved by a majority of the voters of the beneficiary. And the voters of the beneficiary are the voters of the city of Stillwater. A little bit of a twist to this and an issue that would have to be addressed before it could go to an election is that we have several hundred customers on this system who are not located within the city limits. And so those individuals would not be able to vote in this election. So that's an issue, a legal issue that if we were to make the decision to go with an election, I would want to at least have that addressed so that we know what if any, potential consequences that may create, or if we feel comfortable that it's not going to be an issue for us. The second alternative is the issuance of debt approved by the trustees. This alternative would require an amendment to the indenture, and if the trustees are interested in this alternative, staff will have to go back and put together some options and present those to you all at some time in the future if that's what you so desire. So up there I've got stay the course question mark. So at this point in time I just want to pause and maybe get some feedback from the trustees. Is staying the course, is that what we still want to do? And I also have some other alternatives if that is also another direction that we can start to look. So at this point I'll ask for some feedback, I guess.
I wish Councilor Hopkins were here to participate in this. I think that would be a very good thing if we could have some more of this discussion when he's in attendance, because he's been following this water stuff a lot longer than we have. But as far as I'm concerned, the notion of staying the course and compressing a schedule was based on a set of assumptions that I was making, that we had the authority to chart a course in that direction. Now I know that I don't have that authority, or the council doesn't, and so I don't know that I am completely still sold off on the idea that it's all or none. And that maybe we should give some thought to how we might phase, would it be we do phase 1 and 2 and delay on phase 3? Would we, cherry pick some of the ones that we think give us the most bang for our buck in terms of solving the problem? I don't know. But just for me, staying the course was a decision we all made based on a set of assumptions that have proven to not be correct. So I'm crawfishing on you.
Sure. No, I'm looking for feedback, and that's exactly what, I'm looking for, is what your thoughts are. And that's perfect.
I agree with Trustee Weaver in that the concept of compressing that timeline, let's get this solved and completed from a technical standpoint, is still the best decision from a technical standpoint. Well, now we've had this extra twist thrown in there. Now, I do want to make sure that we are all on the same page and that I am correct. All these alternatives, whichever alternative we may go with, it's all based on the rates remaining on the same schedule that we've been operating on. Is that correct?
Depends on there's no change in the rates. What there is an impact on how we would continue to replace the system. As part of the rate study or the cost of service study, it assumed that all of the water distribution system would be replaced on a 50-year interval. And so that's what the rates were on. And it also assumed that we would be basically doing replacement in kind. So if there was an 8-inch water main existing, we would replace it with an 8-inch water main. What we're doing on this project is a very high proportion of enhancements. Basically, we're adding capacity to the system. So in order to do that, that was not contemplated in the calculation of the rates. So instead of replacing the entire system in 50 years, this first interval would actually be expanded out to 57 to 60 years. So it would not impact the rate by pushing out the time frame in which we're able to replace the entire system.
Let me ask the question in a different way.
I'm not following it.
I'm going to ask it in a different way.
Okay?
Just talking alternative one, or the first two alternatives up there, the stay
Yes.
the course alternatives.
Yes, sir.
If either one of those were chosen, they both involve the borrowing of money.
Yes, sir.
Does the borrowing of money necessitate raising rates?
No, sir.
So the current rates that are being charged would not go up just because we're borrowing money.
Absolutely correct.
Okay? That's what I wanted to make sure
Okay.
we're on the same page.
Yep.
I was hearing you say, I want to make sure I didn't hear it incorrectly.
Okay.
The alternatives don't push out the normal replacement of the infrastructure that the previous study had contemplated, right?
It does.
It does?
Yes, they do. They, if we do not, as we indicate, as the chairman indicated, by not increasing rates, by keeping the rates the way they are, basically we had a certain amount of money that it would take to replace all of the water mains, all of the water distribution system within a 50-year period. It did not include capacity enhancements.
And we're
Basically
enhancing capacity.
And we're enhancing
Portion of
capacity,
this-
exactly. And so what it does is, because we've added about, around $50 million to that number, it then pushes it out to the end of the schedule that in 50 years, and of course 50 years is a projection. There's a lot of things that happen in 50 years. And in fact, I think we're probably to a point that we need to, within the next 12 to 18 months, go back and revisit the study and put in all of the things that we've done since then and reevaluate.
And
that
there's
situation.
also likely to be technology changes that will happen 10
Yes.
years from now.
Absolutely.
Hugely affect.
Absolutely. So we're talking 50 years out. I mean,
The extension
there's a
to
lot of things are
50
going to
to
change.
57 is theoretical.
Right, right. It's not hard and fast.
There's kind of an offsetting factor to that 57 already, in that when the cost of service study was done early on, originally, it assumed financing and debt payments would begin on the call line segment replacements earlier than it did. When we had the system evaluated and learned that we had some several years before that had to start, that delayed the necessity to start spending for that portion of the replacement. So that freed up a little bit of your replacement funds, which are being converted to enhancement at this point. So maybe it's not 57, maybe it's 51, but again, it's theoretical. But I think and Dan and I talked about this quite a bit, I think it's really good whatever you group, the councils, the trustees decide to do, is to recognize the difference between enhancements and replacement. And again, the cost of service and our rates are based on replacement of the system. This particular enhancement problem is not an enhancement by choice. It was an unknown deficiency in the system. And I think it's a conscientious effort to use the same source, but I think it should be well documented in the record that it's intended in the future that the water capital fund is for replacement, and that future enhancements to the system should be planned for and funded through another mechanism other than the replacement fund. If that makes sense. The capital improvement fund is for replacement. That's its intent, and that's what we recommend it always be used for, except this first one is unique, and that's why we decided to use part of it, and the trustees decided to do that early on.
In your alternative 1 and 1A, both the stay the course alternatives,
Yes.
both are based on borrowing money. Let me back up. The original cost of service study, the replacement of the whole system, including CAW, from the very beginning, there was a borrowing of money
Absolutely.
component. No questions asked about it.
Yeah, there was not it was, yeah, borrowing money or going into debt to complete the improvements was a contemplation. Not only a contemplation, it was it specifically stated in there that we would have to borrow money to complete
So the
large
borrowing
projects.
the borrowing of money is not the new question. With the push to speed up the improvements, that speeds up the amount of money that's needed now. And so the only new element to this is we would need to borrow the money quicker than the original study. Is that fair?
The original study contemplated that we would be issuing debt for the call line.
Okay.
And the call line would be similar in size.
Okay.
if
Let me
not larger.
rephrase. Not so much in the overall timeline, but
Right.
for the Water 2040 plan, in comparison to the cost of service study, we would need to borrow, to speed up construction, we need to speed up the amount borrowed.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that a fair statement?
That is correct.
Well, that just makes sense, but I just want to make sure that's where we
I
are.
agree with you.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so to speed up the completion, we would have to speed up the amount to be borrowed.
Yes.
But even with the acceleration in the borrowing, that debt service would still be covered by the existing rate structure.
Yes. And are you also asking me, is it affordable? I mean, can we afford this project? I'll ask myself that question. Can we afford this project? And the answer is absolutely unequivocally yes. One of the measures, or the primary measure of affordability in the financial world, is what's called your debt service coverage ratio. And that's your ability to pay back your debt. And the industry requires a 1.25% coverage. With this, if we were to finance this $65 million project, our debt service coverage ratio would still be in the neighborhood of four times. So we're going to be in excess of 3 times what the minimum industry standard is. So from an affordability standpoint, The rate structure that we have put in place, the way we have handled the revenues and put them aside into the Water Capital Fund has put us in a position so that projects like this are very affordable. We have the financial wherewithal to do this.
Without adding additional.
Without adding additional rates, yes.
And just to make sure we're going full circle, we've said without changing the rates. Does that also mean without special assessments or bonds?
Yeah, without,
Well, I mean, without going to the voters to pay for additional bonds.
yes, we can, well,
Depends.
yeah. No special, it does not require any special assessments. I mean, if you so chose to want to fund the enhancements by special assessment, that's an alternative, not one that I'm prepared to discuss, but it doesn't require. We still, if we were to go into debt or to issue debt in excess of approximately $65 million, we would not have to increase rates, 1 penny to do that, and our debt service coverage ratio would still be approximately 4, which is about 3.5 or over 3 times the industry standard. So we're in very, very strong financial shape. The issuance of this level of debt would not have any impact on rates or any adverse impact on our funds.
Let me tweak the question just a touch.
All right.
The debt service that we'd be discussing, are there any other revenue sources that would be created or needed to pay back this debt?
No, we have the revenue stream in place. We established that in 2009.
Thank you.
You all did. Thank you.
As I understood, you were saying our average revenue going into that capital fund is $8 million.
Yes, sir.
Should this be financed, it would only use a portion of that for payment. It would not
Correct.
begin to use
In fact,
a portion.
I think
The
I may.
remaining portion would be used for continuing replacement projects.
In fact, yes, that's a very important point. I think the debt, the projected number in here that we were looking at debt service on. Yeah, maybe I don't. I thought I had that here, but it's not jumping out at me. But it's just a portion, a small fraction of what that $8 million a year revenue is. In fact, then that would leave us the vast majority of that $8 million to continue our mission of replacing existing water lines, including the work that we have programmed to do to start making improvements on the call pipeline.
So the alternatives of staying the course, I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Do you have a question?
Go right ahead.
The alternative of staying the course with, that you had up there, being borrow all the money to compress the schedule. Well,
Those are the only alternatives he's talked about.
So far, I have other alternatives.
There's two alternatives to borrow.
Interested in hearing.
I'd say I want to talk about those a little bit.
Okay.
And does anyone have questions on these first ones, staying the course? We're not done with them, we're coming back to them, but.
Not at this time, sir. So we're replacing, we have money left over to replace when we need to, if things come up with this. And we are enhancing
Yes.
with this.
Yes,
So
under-
we're doing more than we ever thought we were going to do
Yes.
with the enhancement to make the system better.
Correct.
Since you mentioned it just a few minutes ago, I'm trying to remember where we are on the Call Water project. We got a preliminary report when our consultant came in and made some recommendations to us. They recommend replacing certain equipment. We've been working towards that. They didn't have the final report because they wanted to insert some pigs into the line and do some more inspection and testing. We disagreed with some of it, but some of it we said we wanted to do. I don't recall ever hearing that final report on what the consultant's recommendations are as a result of that study. Are they through with
Yeah,
that
in fact,
testing?
we, at the time, we actually terminated that contract because there was significant concern of the possibility of the pig getting stuck in the line.
So we didn't do any further testing
And so
beyond that?
we did not do any further testing, but what we have done is we've initiated, I think there's 2 or 3 projects. One of them is making improvements at the pump station.
Right.
Another one is some valves, some air vac release valves, and those projects are underway. One of the next step in the call line is to look at some strategic locations in which we would want to go ahead and build a bypass or the beginning of a parallel line, and specifically at the river crossings and where the line goes underneath the lake, because those would certainly be the most problematic locations if it were to break. So I envision that the first phase of the parallel line would be at those locations, so that if we did have a break, we could bypass those locations real easy, and then continue on in some sort of systematic method to replace and basically have an entire parallel line from our pump station down to the water plant.
And those, not the very specific project, but the concept of the project was a part of the original cost of service study.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions here on stay the course?
We will come back to it, Mr. Mayor. Is that what you said?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. Other alternatives. Additional financing alternatives. Alternative, what I call alternative number 2, this is pay as you go. And that would basically be, we would not be financing any of these improvements. We would not be issuing any type of debt. We would basically be writing checks out of our checkbook. And alternative number 2 would be 100% of the water capital fund allocated to water project or water 2040. The obvious downside to this is that we're putting all of our eggs in one basket. We're funding, taking all the money we have and putting it towards this project. The second alternative, or alternative 2A here, is the same approach, the cash approach, pay as you go, but we not only fund the Water 2040 project, but we also have about $24 million of other projects identified, including those improvements to the Call water line that we just talked about, that the consultant had previously identified. So this approach, once again, no financing. We just write checks out of the cash balance, and we finance, or we fund the Water 2040 project and those identified projects. The downside to that is, okay, it's going to take a little bit longer than alternative 2, and I'll show you some timelines in just a minute. And also, we're having projects that come up on a routine basis. So for the time frame that it would take to complete this project, we wouldn't be able to pick up any of those new projects by this alternative. And then the last alternative that I identified is actually issuing debt. We can issue approximately $7 million a year of debt. And we could then use that $7 million a year to then complete the Water 2040 project. One of the downsides of this is that if we use up 100% of the debt capacity for Water 2040, then we don't have the ability to issue any other debt for any other water projects, any wastewater projects, any electric projects, or waste management. So, but this gives us basically 2 alternatives, one with a little bit of a twist. You either pay as you go cash, or you finance within the debt limitation on an annual basis. Here's the timeline associated with that. I put up the stay the course, with the completion in the neighborhood of the end of 2016. Alternative 2, once again, that's pay as you go, 100% of the water capital fund going to Water 2040. It'd take us out to approximately 2024. Under alternative 2, when we added in the $24 million of existing or currently planned projects, kicks us out to about 2027. And if we just go in and we finance to our existing debt limitation, it'd take us out to the end of about 2025 to complete the water capital, or the Water 2040.
Mr. Blankenship, a question comes to mind. I think for this analysis, you simply use the total estimated cost spread out. You know, we know that if you do projects over time in small pieces, the cost, total cost
Right.
go
We
up.
did, yeah.
Did you allow for increased cost?
No, we did not include, we didn't include any revenue increases, nor did we include any increase in cost or inflation.
I was just thinking with those costs of inflation, those ends of those green lines would probably go a little further out.
Yes, certainly. If inflation outpaces our increase in revenues, those numbers would be pushed out. But that's based on just today's costs and today's numbers without any type of escalation. And of course, all of these timelines assumes that we have, if we're going to finance, whether it's 1A, 1 or 1A or 3, that we would issue that debt so that we have money by July of 2014. If we're on the cash pay-as-you-go routine alternative 2, and of course those are, I think, pretty good dates, with the exception of what impact inflation might have as opposed to the escalation of revenues.
Is this all of the alternatives?
These are, this is basically all of the alternatives that I was able to identify. The major financing, basically borrowing, issuing debt for the entire project, paying cash over time, or issuing debt within the existing limits and over time.
Now, the one, and we talked about these, the one premise we used is none of these include any additional fees or charges to the customer.
Correct. It's all under the same.
So we haven't looked at any alternatives that would require anything additional from the customer.
Correct. This would be using our existing rates, so that there would be in any of these alternatives that the basic assumption is saying there's no increase to the rates, and so everything that we talked about with alternatives 1 and 1A, stay the course, would apply with these alternatives also. Budget and project schedule impact. To date, all of the funding that we have used for the professional services to date has come from the Water Capital Fund. If we continue on the pace or the direction that we have, if we stay the course, so to speak, on Water 2040, and we do not issue any debt, we will basically drain the Water Capital Fund by July of 2014.
That's because of the land acquisition, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's what I'm getting to is great segue. The Water 2040 next step is land acquisition. And if we go back and we look at that, it's a pretty significant amount of money. But the land acquisition is dependent upon the phasing, depending on what alternative we take. And so there's some strategic decisions that have to be made with regard to that. And then, of course, the phasing is going to be dependent upon the financing, which alternative we decide to approach. So basically, until we make a decision on what direction we're going to go with the financing, then that's going to drive what we do with the phasing, and then that's going to drive what we do with the land acquisition. We're basically on hold until we, for all practical purposes, we're on hold till we make a decision about the financing. And I think that's all that I have to present. I'll be happy to back up to anything you want to see or
Questions and comments on 2, 2A, and 3?
Mr. Mayor, looking at it, I guess objectively, I had a lot of discussions with staff about this. And can you go back to your model that showed stay the course and then how you had it all lined out? Functionally, your last linear slide.
That one
There
right
you go.
there?
Everything that I have heard since I have been on council is hurry up and get it done. What are we concerned about? Are we concerned about issuing debt? Yes.
Certainly.
Are we concerned about altering the charter or altering the SUA indenture to allow us to issue more debt? Absolutely. Is it the responsible thing to do? I think it is. I think the latter three are not the direction that the citizens in that area has given us. It's a tough call, no matter what you do. But I don't think alternative 2, 2A, and alternative 3 are taking a safer route. I think there's too much that can happen between here and there. So to me, the question that I'm throwing around is not if they need to be done, and they need to be done in an expedient fashion. It's, am I okay with issuing that much debt? And I recall what you had said, we'll take it to a vote of the people. Well, there's people that can't vote on it.
How many would that be?
That I don't know.
Don't you think that's worth knowing?
I think that's absolutely worth knowing. And how does that affect us in the long term? I mean, if they really think, if my town is getting all their water from Stillwater and you're going to change something, how is that going to affect me? And do they need to have a voice in that? Well, they probably do. They're paying for a service.
And comment. Just to remind the trustees, I don't, either Mr. Blankenship or I coming here tonight trying to ask the trustees to drill down on one selected option and say, let's do that. But I think the biggest question that we need to discuss tonight is, do you want to find some way to stay on the compressed course, or do you feel more comfortable stretching out? And that's as far as we need to go tonight. If your response is we'd like to stay on the compressed schedule, then we need to come back with you and tell you what the problems are with the public vote, how many people live out, how many people are on and off, and all those questions, and also what options would be on the 1A, how you could make minor adjustments to the trust to do it, and give you all those options. We're not expecting to get that level of, we don't have enough information for you to get to that level this evening. But the main thing is, do we want to stay on the 3-year course, or are you more comfortable going with a 20-year course? And that's really all we need at this point. When you say that's
Yeah, I think
fair,
that's a fair assessment.
because we want to help the trustees get all the right information, but we just need to know which schedule you prefer, and then we can get you the right information.
Okay, so we could stay on the same schedule with a vote of the people, correct?
Yes,
Assuming that it passed.
Assuming that it passed.
assuming that it would pass, yes. And assuming we don't get hung up on a legal issue with regard to, there's approximately about 800 customers.
Out of how many?
800 are the ones that would be outside of the city limits.
I mean, I'm looking at order of magnitude. What does that represent
As far
as far as total customers?
total customers, we have, I believe, about 16,800 meters within the city.
So it's not like half of our customers don't get the vote.
5%.
No, it would be, you know, there's approximately 800 out of about 16,800. But once again, I don't know, that's a legal matter that we would just, I felt compelled to bring it up so that it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody, and I really feel that if we're going to go down that route, we should be prepared and answer that question before we go to a vote, so that we don't go to a vote and hopefully get it approved and then end up with some sort of legal matter that delays the continued implementation of the project.
Mr. Mayor, again, I'd really like Councilor Hopkins to be a part of this discussion. We had talked about before the Thanksgiving holiday, trying to schedule a study session in when we had time, when it worked, so that we could sort of have this sort of kick-around discussion. I still think that would be a good idea.
Do we have that in January? Is that a study session for this?
Doing parking in January, but with the level of this, I'm seriously contemplating asking for a special meeting.
Well, or what are we doing on the 6th?
Yeah, how deep's that meeting on the 6th?
not extremely.
So I can't imagine that's real.
I wouldn't
We
think
could
it'd
add
be
it to the
much.
6th
I mean,
agenda.
I mean, the sense of urgency, I guess, is that, like I indicated, you know, we need to get a direction so that we can continue with,
And you kick your slide back up there that Counselor Scott referred to.
I think that's the one I have on there. I got no control over what's on the
Oh, you
TV.
down? There you are.
There you go. Thanks, Blake.
We always do it. We
Yeah, but-
have one very compressed schedule up there
Uh-huh.
with 2, 3, and 4 that are very long. You know, there could be options
There-
somewhere in between.
It would be a combination of, the only way we could get in between that is to do financing that is in excess of the debt limitation in the trust.
Well, but you're talking about that anyway.
Well, I'm talking about that in 1A. So if you want to go part of the way,
Yeah.
you could go part of the way.
Right.
And then you know, then we start to look at, well, where's part of the
The
way? what
original
makes
schedule
sense?
that our consultant recommended to us as far as do this first, this was phase 1, this was phase 2, this was phase 3, was based on need and maximum impact at the time,
Right.
right?
And that's,
And I would like to go back, I hate to do this to you, but I would like to go back and refresh myself in what's in phase 3.
okay. We can, in fact, I think we've actually refined that through the
What are we
preliminary
getting
design
from that?
process. But we can come in and basically give you a list of I guess, a priority listing, so to
Yeah.
speak, of
And
the
Mr.
projects.
Mayor, you were talking about, you know, 1A or 1, we had discussed various mechanisms we could put in place in the trust indenture that would expand the capability, but not just kick the door wide open.
Still gotta have that safety.
And we could raise the amount of debt each year. We could raise, you know, add something like a debt service ratio, or a combination of the two. You know, there's any numbers, and I was hoping we would see some alternatives of that laid on the table at some point. That could perhaps be something we do at the study session.
Yeah, and I can tell you why they're not laying here, because we did not want to be presumptuous that, you know,
Yeah.
we wanted to continue the course.
Right.
I
appreciate that.
We have talked about it, and we have explored those, and we can bring those forward if that's what you want, but once again, we didn't want to be presumptuous that that's the direction you wanted to go.
My take on 2, 2A, and 3 is they are all very short-sighted. And by short-sighted,
I'd agree with that.
what I mean by that is I think we're putting blinders on and saying that's the only thing we got to deal with, and what a great solution to fix that one problem. Well, you know what? If we could live in the vacuum and only have to worry about one problem at a time, 2, 2A, and 3 would be great.
If we didn't have any.
But we don't live in a vacuum. We can't put blinders on. And so, I mean, right now, I'd say I never want to see alternative 2 again. That
For me,
that would never allow us to fix anything
it puts us
under alternative 2.
Yeah, I think in my report you see that
Unless we raised the amount that they could borrow in a given year.
No, alternative 2 is pay as you go.
Oh.
No,
Yeah,
With 100% going to
Yeah.
2040. That's just,
That's not practical.
that's.
I
We're
agree.
not doing anything else in water.
2A, I think, is a split the baby and they both die.
yeah, the twins don't survive when we split that way, you're right.
And 3, we might keep one of them. I mean, it just, well, I think you know where I'm leaning.
Yeah,
We asked to compress the schedule for very important reasons.
absolutely.
And I have yet to see anything in alternatives of stretching it out that offset the negatives of stretching it out.
That's correct.
You know, I think Mr. Weaver's question about reviewing the original phases, I think will bring us back to do one of the things the mayor's talking about. And this is oversimplified, but with the original schedule, the first phase was to get the existing customers stabilized. Second and third were to allow for the expected growth in that area. But since that time of that study, growth trends appear as though they're speeding up in that area. And I think that's a lot of what drove the council to the expedited.
That's our other problem by stretching this thing out.
Yeah, we don't know.
Right. Well, and the real difficult thing as far as when we start to identify what are the priorities. Obviously, if we don't build the line from the plant down to that area, we don't get any added capacity. So that's going to be, pretty, if it's not
Or
number
like
one
if
on the
call-
list.
Like if call fails,
Yeah.
it could be,
Oh, yeah, well, if that call fails, yeah, we're not talking about this project anymore. But we don't know, once we get beyond getting the water to Sixth and Country Club, we don't know if the southwest corner of Sixth and Country Club is the next development or where the next development's gonna be. And so we can't predict when or where or what their demand is going to be. So if we do everything as a single phase and we get it all in, then we're prepared, no matter if they're at the southwest corner of Sixth and Country Club or they're somewhere else. And so, but we can identify in as close a priority list as we possibly can and provide that to you with associated costs, so you kind of get a feel for where those would lie and where there might be some natural breakpoints.
Not speaking for Trustee Hopkins, but just knowing his thoughts on getting something accomplished with the infrastructure, I feel very safe in that he would be much more amenable to not stretching things out. That's just my take on his thoughts. I would like the opportunity to have him available for the deeper conversations. But what I picked up on, and you guys tell me if I didn't hear you right, is we would like alternative 1 and 1A, we want to dig into those more. Not committed to,
Sure.
but to dig into 1 and 1A more.
Yes, sir.
Is that,
I'm not trying to push the council or push staff or push the project to commit us to a $65 million debt load. Even though we can pay for it, it doesn't cost the citizens anything else, it doesn't cost them anything extra. My goal is not to push them to make that decision. My goal is this needs to happen. We have contractors out there that have difficulty getting a water tap. We have houses trying to be built. It's important for the infrastructure, that whole part of the community. So for me, Mr. Mayor, take options 1 and 1A, find a way to do it. If we've got to stretch it out a bit, stretch it out a bit, but be practical with respect to the people living in that area and respect to the growth and the ongoing expansion of Stillwater.
you guys did you get what you need as we go forward?
I'm sorry I didn't have a better speech prepared.
That's okay. Yeah, I think so. I think that maybe if I could summarize, we definitely want to take a look at the priority listing and get a sense of, how there might be some sort of natural way to, I guess, phase, for lack of a better word, the project. But then to also expand upon alternatives 1A and 1, which would enable us to then proceed with the project as a whole, and then look and see if there are going to be some alternatives, between alternative 2 and alternative 1. And the priority listing, if it has a natural break point, that would probably be the guiding force for what that alternative or alternatives might look like. So I think that I can put something together and be able to come back in January to present that and have some further discussion and refinement of the direction.
Do we want it, I don't even know if this is feasible, is there a way we could have our regular meeting on the 6th and also have a study session? So we can, loosen the tie and relax a little bit as we dig into it deeper?
We can do that.
we could adjourn from here and go wherever we need to go.
Yeah, we could adjourn here and go across the hall and sit around the table, roll up your sleeves and have some Yeah, should be open to the public if they want to come.
Will we have time to understand the legalities of having a vote if we have a
We'll be
vote?
prepared.
Any other questions?
Not at this time, sir.
Very much appreciate your attention to this, I think, very important matter, and very much appreciate the dialogue. Very beneficial for us. Thank you very much.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, nothing else on the SUA's agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn SUA?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion a second to adjourn SUA. Approved 4-0, SUA is adjourned. I'll call to order, if I can grab my agenda. Call to order the Stillwater Economic Development Authority meeting. First item is the consent docket. Item A, meeting minutes. Item B, 2014 schedule of meetings.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the consent docket of CEDA. That is approved 4-0, and that takes us down to general orders. Mr. Galloway.
Yeah, I think you recall, I've reported in the past several months ago that we had considered a branding contract with a private consultant to help us work with the community of Stillwater, all the segments of the community, the churches, the schools, the neighborhoods, to try to identify what the people of Stillwater identify ourselves as, what we want to be, and how to move forward. We think it'll be really helpful to all of our economic development programs. We discussed this at CDAC, which is our interagency cooperative agreement with the university, the Stillwater Industrial Foundation, and the Chamber. And they all provided assistance in interviewing the top 3 proposals we received. And their recommendation, and I fully concurred, was a firm's presentation. The firm is Chandler Thinks out of Franklin, Tennessee, Nashville. And his proposed contract would take about 6 to 9 months to complete the project. It's his proposed cost is a little over $54,000 with travel. It makes it around $59,000. He was one of the lower priced proposals, but we felt he was the most qualified and had the best understanding of what we wanted to accomplish. Chairman Bartley and Vice Chair Hopkins both serve on CDAC as well, and they can speak to this, but I would certainly like to move ahead with this, and I'm recommending that CEDA approve the contract not to exceed $60,000 and authorize me to enter that agreement with Mr. Chandler. The proposal is for him to come to Stillwater after the holidays are over and begin to very much get involved in the community with organized surveys, meetings with community groups, etc., and develop a product that we think will be usable by not only the city, but usable by the chamber, by the university, by all organizations within our community. We don't really have a unified brand of what we all like to call Stillwater. It's a great place to live. Everybody says wonderful things about it. We don't have a unified message that we can all go out in the world with and say, here's what Stillwater is. And we need the people to help us do that. And I think this guy's a good person to help us do that. I'm recommending that. Mayor, any comments?
This concept of what we're talking about here, when you say community branding, this isn't a logo. This isn't coming up with a fancy S in some shape or form. It is so much bigger than that. It is truly to identify who are we, and more importantly, who does everyone else think we are? Because that's really the key. We may not even know who we are. An outside person, an outside perspective can give us a good look at what is it that someone really sees when they come here. Once we know that, once we have a good outside perspective, because if you stop and think about it, outside perspective we always talk about wanting more industrial jobs. We want economic growth. Some happens internally. A lot comes from the outside. And if we don't know what they think when they come in, we don't know what we need to fix, we don't know what we need to enhance, and we don't know really what is selling people on Stillwater. So this is so much more than a logo. And that's one of those, I think, if you get bogged down with the word brand, you're seeing 10%. It is way bigger than that.
I told the group, I think we can see one of the best examples of branding successfully anywhere in looking at what OSU has done. And I'm not saying that because we have a councilman. But when I go to Oklahoma City, I go to the airport, I go to the shopping malls, and I see Oklahoma State University, home of America's brightest orange. And that says much more than a logo. It's telling the world we've got first-class educational system with some of the best, brightest students in the country. And so when you say that, everywhere you go, that's what people associate OSU with. We need something that everybody can own and buy into and say, yes, Stillwater is the home of something. And we just need to let all the people help us define what that is.
Is this a budgeted item?
If you'll recall, the council appropriated to CETA, the use tax portion that we have been using for economic development over the years. That's in the CETA's reserves, and it will be every year, and this would be money appropriated from that economic development reserve you have. So it is money that you have available for this purpose.
I think it's a good idea, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Chair. You?
Me? All right. Any other questions? Is there a motion on this?
I would move approval.
Second.
Saw that America's brightest orange too.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. That's approved 4-0. Nothing else on CETA's agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn CETA?
So
I'll
moved.
move to
Second.
adjourn.
Motion and a second to adjourn CETA. That is approved 4-0. CETA is adjourned. We'll reconvene City Council. And is there a motion to move into executive session on items A and B under executive session?
I move that we move into executive session. Under items A and B. Did I say it
I'll
all?
second it.
Yeah.
That's approved 3-1 with Councilor Weaver voting no.
I want to go home.
Well, we're going to executive session.